Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I'm going to be doing my December TBR, as well as looking at some reading events that I have my eyes on. Stay tuned. Okay everyone, so first let's just talk about 2 or 3 reading events that I'm thinking about joining. First of all, there's a thing called All About Holly by Stephen King, and this is created by Bad is Rad, and I think Greg at Another Bibliophile reads, and I think I might be a co-host for 1 or 2 of the episodes, but yeah, I'll link them in the channel down below. What this is all about is that we're going to be reading every single book in which Holly takes part, in which Holly is a character, starting from the early books, the Bill Hodges series, working our way all the way up to If It Bleeds, and then finally we're going to read Holly. The second one is Remember December, and I saw this on Greg's channel over at Another Bibliophile Reads. Apparently it is created by Bookins Books and Novella. And I know that there are a lot of co-hosts, but I'll link them all down below. Now lastly, and that is also looking at books that you want to reread. So there's 3 prompts. Reread a book you have forgotten about, or basically forgotten about. Reread a book to find out how you really felt about it. And reread a book in a different way. Now I am planning on doing 3 rereads, and here's our girl. I'm planning on doing 3 rereads. I'm not going to tell you what they are right now. I'll just mention them as we randomly go through the list. And the final one is Cthulhu Mythos. Read a book either by Lovecraft or by anyone else that's written a book about the Cthulhu Mythos. And I'll talk about that as we go along my list as well. Okay, and finally, before we begin the list proper of my TBR, there's just 2 things I want to talk about. First of all, I think this month I'm not going to read too much or any seriously extreme horror. I think I'm going to take a break over this festive season. I'm still reading a lot of horror, but I think I need a break from all that really heavy stuff, because it does get you for a bit. After a while it kind of weighs heavy. And second of all, I read 14 books last month, which is pretty awesome. But this is a Christmas season, and so I might not find myself having that much time to read as much as last month. I'll try to get as close to 14 books as I can. Let's just see how we go. Okay, let's start with the list. The first book is Noscura by Joe Hill. And this is a reread for me. This is an absolutely wonderful horror novel. And it fits into prompt 2. Basically reading it to see how I really feel about it, and yeah, it blew me away the first time. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get something different and just as special out of it the second time. That's sometimes what happens when you reread a book that you love, just something magical maybe that you missed the first time around. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and it's about a special character called Charles Manx, who has a very special way with children. Really cares for children. He puts them in the back of his car for a drive, and his car happens to be a Rolls Royce Wraith with the number plate Nosferatu at the back, and he takes them off to the special place, Christmas Land. Magical, but absolutely bloody terrifying. And in his way stands a young woman who is Vic McQueen, who happens to be one of my favourite protagonists, female protagonists in any novel ever. And she has this ability to find things, and she can kind of go into other spaces. It's almost like a magical thing, just as Charlie Manx can with his car. And these 2 kind of butt heads. I'm not going to say anything more about the story, but I absolutely love this. And if any of you would like to actually have a little bit of a buddy read with me, feel free, just let me know in the comments, because it's just an awesome book. yeah, that's number 1, Noscura. Okay, the second book is on my Kindle, and it's a little sci-fi horror novella, and it's also a Christmas book. I thought it'd be nice just to have 2 Christmas books in here. And it's called The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. And now, what I understand is it's about 5 strangers in a snowstorm, and they take shelter in a diner, and the weather starts to get worse and worse. And the snow and the temperature plummets, the snow gets heavier, and then a 6th character comes into the diner, a 6th visitor, and things change and things get bloody, and Christmas turns nasty. So yeah, the short little novella, The Visitor. I don't think it's extreme, but you never know with these little things you find on Kindle, these little novellas, it might get quite nasty, but that's okay. I can handle it in small doses for this month. Okay, and the next 2 books. The first book I mentioned last was also very much a winter book, and I understand all my friends overseas, all of you up north, are experiencing winter. So a lot of you are seasonal readers. I know you like to read books whether you're summer, spring, autumn, winter. And so I've chosen a couple of winter books, being the first, The Visitor being one of them, and At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft being the second one. And now this obviously fits the bill for the Cthulhu Mythos. I might try and fit in a little more Lovecraft this month as well. But this is basically about, and I started it and I never quite finished it, so it'll be good to read it properly this time. And it's about an Antarctic expedition, and they find something very menacing in the remains of an ancient civilization, and they're exploring this frozen landscape. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It's creepy and it's chilling. Yeah, it's a winter read. And of course I had to choose a summer book for myself, because it is very hot here, and it's moving into, yeah, the temperatures are soaring where we live, and I decided to go with Peter Benchley, The Deep. Now, I read Jaws, I love Jaws, but let's just quickly look at what this book is about. Well, let me just talk about some key words here. Entertainment, adventure, and underwater chill. 2 honeymooners. Sunken treasure, a sinister revolutionary and a traitor concealed among the good guys, slow cruising sharks, ocean floor maneuvers, and needle-toothed moray eels, darting suddenly from the reef cavities in which the treasure rests. Okay, this is more like an adventure thriller, but that's great. It'll be a fun change of pace for me as well. So that is Peter Benchley, The Deep. Okay, the next 2 books are both as a result of a poll that I put on my community section of my channel to vote for books that they'd most like me to read. And this one is Mexican Gothic by, don't have her name here, sorry, it'll be up there, it's on Kindle. And this is basically about a socialite, a young lady. Basically she moves to a house or a mansion in the Mexican countryside, because she receives a frantic letter from her cousin, and her cousin thinks that her husband is trying to poison her. So she goes over there to, I suppose, lend her assistance. And yeah, I think it's a haunting story. I've just started reading it, so I don't really know what it's about. But yeah, I'm looking forward to carrying on with it tonight, and I'll give you some update on how I feel. Okay, and the 6th book, also voted by my loyal subscribers, was Skullface Boy by Chad Lutzke. Now, to be honest with you, this is one book that really stood out for me, and this is one that I'm dying to read. It just sounds so interesting, and basically it's about the 16-year-old boy who literally has a skull for a face, and he's in this home, and he decides to run away one night and do kind of a cross-country road trip thing, because he wants to find someone else who apparently looks just like him, who has the same condition as he has. And he runs into all sorts of misadventures. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It just sounds like a really interesting, creepy, kind of coming of age story. I don't think it's going to be over the top horror. It just sounds really, really interesting, and I can't wait to read it. So that is Skullface. Okay, next up we have Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. My first book on my long journey, month by month, reading until I eventually read Holly. So yeah, all I know about this book is that there's this crazy madman, this killer, who runs down a whole bunch of people at the beginning of the book, gets away with it, he escapes, and then I know there's a detective, and I think months later he tries to kill again. This is what I get from the blurb. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I love Stephen King. I've heard good things about this particular book. So yeah, I'm going to get into that sooner rather than later. And it's interesting, I found this one on my Kindle. I've got part 2 and 3, the physical books, behind me. If I really enjoy this, I will really try and find a physical copy of this as well. So yeah, that's Mr. Mercedes. Okay, the 8th book is The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. Now, this will be the 2nd book that I've read by this author. First one last month, I read Wendigo, and I absolutely loved it. I love his writing, it's just so exquisite, so descriptive. It's just so easy to read for such an old story. So I'm expecting the same from The Willows. I've heard good things. Let me just tell you what it's about from the Goodreads blurb that I kind of summarized here. So two friends are halfway, on a canoe trip down the Danube River. The surrounding environment, the wind, the sun, the river, and of course the willows, they're almost personified. They're given a character that threatens the two men. So it's almost like their environment comes alive around them and it's threatening. So it doesn't rely on, this thing about these books, not all of them rely on blood and gore to scare you. Sometimes it's subtle, and that can also be really scary and really good. So yeah, that's The Willows. Okay, the 9th book is The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, another classic horror novella. I'm surprised I haven't actually read this yet. It's about a young, pretty governess in her first job, and her first job is looking after these 2 children. They're beautiful children, but they're very odd, they're very strange, they're very distant, and I think they're an estate or a mansion, and there's something evil and haunting about this book. There's something evil coming after the children. That's as much as I know about it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. That is A Turn of the Screw. Okay everyone, the next one is an interesting one. I've mentioned this book a number of times on my channel, and not in a very good light. And I've decided I want to give it a reread. And that is A Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Now, I remember the first time that I read this book, I was very angry. I was actually seriously pissed, because I thought that this book was terrifying. And I came out of it thinking I was kind of cheated. Didn't like the characters. I felt like this was just kind of boring. But I've heard so many people absolutely rave about this book. I'm going to talk about that in a second. It's basically, let me just read the back. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against the hills, holding darkness within. Whatever walked there, walked alone. Something is at work in Hill House. When a group of troubled people come to stay there, they begin to experience things they cannot understand or explain, and are forced to confront their darkest fears. The house is gathering its powers, and soon it will choose to make one of them its own. Now, it just sounded so terrifying to me then. It sounds such an incredible story, and yeah, I was let down. But now, I'm going to give it a reread. Remember December, that book event. And this is prompt number, I can't remember if it's 1 or number 3, but it's to reread a book in a different way. So when I go into this book this time, I'm going to go in a little bit calmer, with a bit of an open mind, and just see if I can enjoy it for what it was. Because sometimes when you read a book, you expect to be just downright terrified, and maybe you need to go in a different way, kind of approach it on a different angle, and it might work out a bit better for you. After all, Stephen King says, as nearly perfect a haunted house tale as I have ever read. Stepping into Hill House is like stepping into the mind of a madman. Oh yeah, maybe I missed something the first time. Let's give it another go. Okay, for my next book, we got The Lady Killer by Ed McBain. See how nice and short it is? I promised myself at the beginning of the year I was going to try and read one of these every month, because we pretty much own every book from the 87th precinct. We inherited it from the previous owners, and I kind of went back on that promise. I think it's been 4 or 5 months that I haven't read him, and I'm going to rectify it in the months to come. This is episode 7 of the 87th precinct, and yeah, I'm going to try after a long break. He's a good writer, he's an excellent crime writer. I know that Ollie from Criminology absolutely adores this author, and yeah, I'm going to give him another go and see what this is all about. I remember his prose being very crisp. I think it was just the crime. I was getting tired of the crime stories, you know, kind of mystery crime, and this is very hard-boiled crime. But the writing's good, the stories are good, so yeah, let's see what this is about. Very briefly, in a few short years, Ed McBain has come crashing into the front rank of crime writers, both in print and on television. Okay, I will kill the lady tonight at 8. Pieced and pasted together from printed snips. The letter was dropped off. Ooh, yeah. As you can see, this print is really, really small, and I'm struggling. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Lady killer. I'll let you know. The 12th book is a sci-fi horror classic. I think it's mainly classified as sci-fi. And that is A Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. Yeah. And now, yeah, I'm really excited to read this book. A lot of you down in my comments when I did my book haul and mentioned this book said that this is fantastic. So that's one of the reasons I've added it for this month. And it's supposed to be absolutely brilliant. I can actually read this print. It's big enough. The night the sky broke out in mysterious green flashes. All but a few people on Earth were blinded. The world went mad. Ordinary folk became animals, turning on each other in terror and desperation. Bill Mason was one of a handful who struggled to make a new and civilized start out of the chaos. But blindness, oh yeah, apparently most of the population are just struck blind. But blindness and madness soon became the least of man's problems. The Triffids were moving in, walking plants that fed on the bodies of their human prey. They stalked the survivors, killing everyone in their path. So yeah, this looks like a lot of fun, and I absolutely love this cover. It's brilliant. Yeah, this is going to be a good read. A good, quick read. Okay everyone, and for my final book that I'm going to actually talk about, I watched a video by MJ last night where she talked about dark books and sometimes how too much of a good thing. It's just too much. And sometimes reading horror after horror and disturbing book after disturbing book cannot but have a negative effect on you. It can make you feel bleak. And to be honest, I have felt like that in the past. I have sometimes really struggled with this channel to just read a lot of horror. So I promised myself now and next year, it's always going to be 1 or 2 books that I'm going to keep aside, that I'm going to read if I start feeling that, kind of feeling down on myself because it's just too much terror. And one of them, and I read one a couple of months ago, the first in the series, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I want to read The Restaurant at the End of the Universe this month. Sometime this month. There's a sci-fi, comedy, fantasy classic, and if you haven't read it, you might be a horror lover, but just pick up the series. It's absolutely phenomenal. I've also got the entire series like this, but yeah, I've got each individual episode as well. I might aim to read one a month. And of course there are other books as well that could serve as kind of, what's the word? Palette cleaners. Palette cleaners. Where you just had enough of, you want to change things up a little bit. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I can't remember much of what it's about at all. I have read it, so that also fits into one of those to read prompts, reread prompts. And so yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. Let me just read just 2 sentences. When all questions of space, time, matter, and the nature of being have been resolved, only one question remains. Where shall we have dinner? The restaurant at the end of the universe provides the ultimate gastronomic experience. And for once there's no morning after to worry about. And that's what this book is about. It's wacky comedy. You know, there are some people that don't get this kind of comedy. It's kind of British, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you haven't read, start with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and move your way up. A lot of fun reading this book. Okay everyone, so that is my December TBR and my activity in terms of readathons. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Tell me if you read any of these, which ones did you enjoy. And yeah, anyway, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, subscribe and give me a thumbs up. And take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.